Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. There's more to good health than diet and exercise. Now, those two things are very, very important, and we've spoken about them quite often on this podcast. Being physically active has a huge number of health benefits. But we also know there's the person who's fit and, jogs along the beach and can drop dead of a heart attack, and it's not a force field against cancer, but it's very important. And we also know that eating the right foods is important, putting the fuels into our body. But if we use one of my favourite analogies, which is a car, there are a number of components necessary for the car to run well. You need to put the right fuels into it. You need to have the tyres pumped up. But you also need to have coolant in. You need to have oil. You need to have the spark plugs. There are a whole host of factors required to make that car run. Just having the right petrol is important, but it's not the only one, if there's no air in the tyres. So work presented to the US Senate Aging Committee has looked at connections and purpose, and he said, people who are living longer are not spending time on Facebook. Instead, they're spending time face-to-face conversation, living in extended families and connecting with their neighbours. And this could be their work colleagues as well. In addition, they feel they have a purpose. And I'm going to quote, "We know that people who have a sense of purpose live about 8 years longer than people who are rudderless. They manifest their purpose usually in family, but also with religion. We know people who show up at church or temple or mosque live about 4 years longer than people who don't show up at all." Now, it's not the act of going to church on Sunday that of itself is contributing to the longevity. There's probably a whole host of other components that go with it. But the central theme is that of purpose. So whether it's deemed that they are, serving church, or there's a sense of service within the religious community, of service for other people, or being in service, if you like, to a higher force or being. And purpose can also be found outside of a religious setting. Don't get me wrong. Purpose can be your family. It can be your work colleagues. It can be your local community. But that what we do matters is important. My book some years ago, Dr. Joe's DIY Health, with the 8 pillars of health, the 8th pillar was fun and purpose. So we do like to feel that what we do is of some significance, and it doesn't mean it has to be world-changing. If you've got a baby and you can change its nappy or diaper, that has some purpose. That's making the baby more comfortable. That's good. It hasn't changed the whole world, but it still matters. If you can be, helping a neighbour with something that they're troubled by, again, that has some purpose. So we sometimes think it has to be on a global scale. No, it doesn't. But it needs to matter to us. And part of that, obviously, is that feeling that it's of benefit to something or someone else. So essentially, this work, and it's been shown lots of times that loneliness is a significant contributor to all-cause mortality. It's on a par with smoking. But again, big public health doesn't like to talk about it because you can't tax it. You can't tax loneliness, and you obviously can't ban it. So, there goes that plan. So therefore, they just don't feel the need to talk about it. And we do know that societies with greater longevity, and Japan is a good example of that, they do often have better connections, and that includes connections between younger and older generations. They'll often send children to aged care facilities or to visit older people, even not if they're in facilities, just at home, to enhance those connections. And we also know that societies where the family unit is more valued also tend to do better in terms of longevity, and that includes some of the Mediterranean populations. Nothing is absolute. Nothing is absolute. It's a bit like doing exercise. Doesn't mean you're going to live to 100. Eating sensibly doesn't mean you're going to live to 100. But the more you can do that is beneficial for your health, the longer you're likely to live. And ultimately, we're all on this planet for a finite length of time, and I think we all know that, and we all accept it. Most people accept it. What typically concerns people, in my view, is not so much that it's going to end one day, but that in the lead up, they're going to be infirmed in some way. So they may not have control of their physical and or mental faculties. So you may not be able to feed or dress yourself. You might not know what day it is. You may be in significant pain. So it's the quality rather than the quantity of life. And look, quantity matters, don't get me wrong, but it's the quality that often focuses people's minds as they're getting into, maybe the second half of their life. So therefore, a little bit like the car, the more components that we can have all tuned up correctly. So yes, we've got the right air pressure in the tyre, we've got the right coolant, it's topped up, we've got the windscreen wiper fluid topped up, we've got oil in, we've got the right fuel in the car, we've had it tuned periodically. So the more we're doing to look after the car, the longer the car's going to run and the better it's going to run and the less trouble it'll get into. And the human body's a lot more complicated than a car, way more complicated than a car. But the same principle applies. The more we can be doing in a number of settings to optimize our health, the better it's going to be. So yeah, eating sensibly, whole, WHOLE foods, rather than the highly processed packaged foods with lots of additives and numbers and preservatives and that it means processed within an inch of its life. It's got no life force. You can put it on the shelf and eat it in 3 years' time. So whole foods that if you don't eat or freeze in the next week or so, you're probably going to have to throw it out. Drink mainly water, do some regular exercise, getting enough sleep, managing your stress. But the connections is important as well. And look, I appreciate it's easier said than done, but we can all work towards that. And that's from both sides, including reaching out to people who, maybe you haven't heard from for a while to see how they're doing. And the idea of purpose is that what I do, matters. And a part of that is doing things that may matter. I'm not quite sure that being on Facebook matters. If you want to check it now and again, it's fine. And look, we're all guilty of being on social media. I'm not going to pretend I'm not on it either. I am. But, we can also get off it, but also recognise that that's not the real world. And the more time, we spend scrolling and on screens, probably the less good it is for us and the less good it is for our children. So setting some sort of purpose, and it can be a purpose to tend your garden. I want to plant some vegetables, or my purpose might be, I want to get into some regular exercise. My purpose might be, I want to do some more reading. I want to learn something new. It's a really good idea to try to learn something new each day. That's an adage that I work towards. I'm always wanting to learn something new each day. And, I think that's good. That, in my opinion, makes me a better person because I've got a greater understanding, including of that which I wasn't familiar with before. So, yes, diet and exercise do matter. They are important. It is not either or. But our connections and our relationships are important. And doing that which matters to us and which we feel has some purpose. And again, a bit of a stuck record on this, but it doesn't have to be globally changing. It's just at a very small and local level for yourself and, your own sort of circumstances that, you do have some purpose, including catching up with friends and family is also an important part of your health. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.